All right, we are recording. I had to start because we had already started talking off the air, and if we didn't push record, we'd miss the whole thing. So welcome to Thoughts on Talks, Deep Dives and Digressions, Black Lives Matter episode, which is our special episode where we have our friend Salaam Thompson joining us, kindly educating us and sharing his perspective on, life and being a Black person in America, because Reverend Mike and I haven't lived that, so we don't know. We got to ask somebody.
The frustration of schooling old white guys.
Well,
the gift contained therein, dear listener, if you're watching. So this is a real gift. At least I think it's a real gift from you, Salaam, to whoever is watching, because you not only have the story of the struggle, but you're also an accomplished guy. So in spite of this struggle, you've been able to make your way and thrive. You have great family, great kids, good, strong career, great role model for anyone. I mean, if I had little kids, I'd want them to look up to Mr. Thompson for sure.
And not just because you're so tall.
Yeah, literally.
We all look up to you for that.
Yeah, we all do that. But just as a man and the way you carry yourself in the world and so forth. So, anyway.
And not everybody has the ability to teach or convey ideas, and you are very skilled at that, Salaam. So we are both very grateful.
Right.
I know I've learned.
And this is our last Thoughts on Talks for 2020.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we're buttering you up, because we've got 2020. No, but seriously, all kidding aside, that was serious stuff. Okay.
Appreciate you both. Thank you.
Wow.
Plus it's fun.
Yeah. So we had been talking, just kind of texting each other beforehand about maybe talking about Kwanzaa, because it's that time of year. Kwanzaa begins on December 26th. And so off the air, Salaam, you were talking about how, it wasn't part of your experience growing up. I looked it up.
Sorry, Elena, there actually is another thing that I think we should touch on before we kick off on.
Yeah.
That is the fact that he is wearing Chicago colors. And there's a reason for that. So take it away, Salaam.
Hey, it's winter go home time. We're praying that Arizona loses to the Rams on Sunday. And we are faced with a daunting task of having some cheese in our home field, the Soldier Field. So we have to play the Cheeseheads. That's what they call the Green Bay Packers, Melena.
Yeah.
So I forgot.
Thank you.
We're talking to a sports fan.
Are they from Wisconsin? Is that
They're
why?
from Wisconsin. Oh, yeah, 2 hours north of Chicago. So the Soldier Field is
know that it's going to be Seahawks Bears in the NFC Championship.
Let's do it. So we have to do our part, or hopefully Arizona can take a dive for us when they play the Rams. That would help a great deal, and then we'll punch our ticket to New Orleans, for the wild card game.
So there we go. Okay, now let's talk about what we were going to talk about.
That's a whole other way that we are a microcosm. I think everybody should acknowledge that we are a microcosm of the world, just the three of us. Because if both of your teams end up playing each other, that's pretty impressive. And then, as I pointed out before, we're like our own little Obama, Joe, and Kamala here. We have connections to, parallels. So I think everybody should listen to what we say.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so it's that time of year.
You were saying, Melena, as I was mentioning, to help you out there.
Thank you.
Yeah, my family, we didn't celebrate Kwanzaa like that. anything that I've learned, because I was naturally curious, especially from a historical perspective, was
Mm-hmm.
stuff that I would find out about through research, reading. Like I heard something in social studies class when I was a youngster, come home and I asked my older brothers about it. And they, oh yeah, it was like this. Then started giving me the rundown, but it was nothing that was introduced to me that said, here, you should do it like this. And, it's when you think about it, that's really not all that unusual to have that happen to, because I knew of other friends that didn't have that upbringing where they didn't talk about historical, concepts or historical
Mm-hmm.
analysis of important people. Granted, we all knew the rudimentary stuff. We knew the March on Washington. We knew who Malcolm X was. We knew Muhammad Ali, boxing, things like that. I didn't learn about, Elijah Muhammad until I was I in 8th grade when I saw the Eyes on the Prize the PBS specials. That's when I learned. So just giving some background there.
Mm-hmm.
And I found out that one of my cousins, they have, celebrations of Kwanzaa, annually, but I didn't become aware of that until I was an adult and I had already moved away from Chicago, but it's something I would like to have participated in. So, but I will say, as years gone on and what I was able to gather, from Kwanzaa, first off, for those who are out there, Kwanzaa was founded in 1966 by Dr. Maulana Karenga. His, what we call in the hood, his government name, I think, is Ronald, and I forgot his last name. His last name just slipped my mind. But Dr. Maulana Karenga is a professor of African American studies down at, I believe he's at Cal State Long Beach, and so he founded Kwanzaa in 1966. So in a nutshell, it means like the first fruits. And when you think about it, fruit is used synonymously with harvest. And when you juxtapose it to the Gregorian Western calendar, we celebrate the harvest in this land, in the period of Thanksgiving, which has evolved into what is it, Indigenous Peoples Day or something to that effect, because of the atrocities that ensued. So um, looking at the parallels there of first fruits, the harvest, and the seven principles that were brought about, and just going through them. Just day one is the principle of umoja, which is translated into unity. The second one is kuji chagulia, and that means self-determination. Let me stop there. But unity, in a nutshell, is means basically it's self-explanatory, like family, community, nation, your race, you're coming together, and for a, a greater good. And self-determination, is to reserve the empowering right, then, as they worded in the Declaration by the forefathers of this country, an inalienable right to define yourself, to name yourself, to create for yourself, and to speak for yourself. So it develops a form of self advocacy. And if you stopping at self determination, if you recall, if any of you have seen Roots, and
Mm-hmm.
seeing when LeVar Burton, his character was Kunta Kinte, and he was tied to the stanchion, and the slave master, had one of the other black slaves hold a bullwhip and said, "Now, what is your name? I'm calling you Toby." And LeVar repeatedly kept saying Kunta, and then he ordered the slave to lash him, each time until he relented. And then he said, "Now, what is your name?" And then he eventually relented and said, "My name is Toby." He tapped out, basically. So there's legacy around this, where um, that began the disconnect between black people and the customs of the motherland from which they came.
Mhm.
Someone remind me. I'll go into that a little bit more once I go through all the principles. The third principle is ujima, and that means a collective work and responsibility. Now I know in American folklore, we've celebrate the Battle of Iwo Jima, but in this case of Kwanzaa, we have collective work and responsibility, which basically that collective work is self-explanatory of being responsible and raising families,
Mhm.
providing for those guidance for those who don't have that guidance, and so on and so forth. And the fourth principle of Kwanzaa is Ujama, which means cooperative economics, where you profit from stores within your community, shops within your community, businesses within your community. So you're creating some form of commerce as the base of any thriving economy, any thriving community.
Actually, on that note, I
Mhm.
found a Facebook group and a website called Melanated Money Mondays, and the website
Ooh.
melanatedmoneymondays.com.
Mhm.
And it's to support Black owned businesses and small businesses, entrepreneurs. And
Absolutely.
I like the sound of the name, and I started following it on Facebook. And I'm not sure how big it's gotten. It looks like, it started in one community, but we can talk about it and help it spread across the
Yeah,
country.
I would check it out because I follow a blackout week as well,
Okay.
so for that same purpose. And,
Hmm.
there's something about, I mentioned business under cooperative economics, and business, if you break down the word, it's busyness. So the
Hmm.
I is transliteral to the Y. So your busyness, and as Minister Farrakhan mentioned, he said business is the activity of life. So if you're not busy, like how when you talk to some of your elders, and so how you doing, auntie so and so or uncle so and so, oh, I'm just staying busy, because that busyness is the activity of life that's sustaining them even in their age. So but
Hmm.
that busyness can be applied at other age intervals at different levels within your community to create that strong chain link of
Hmm.
functionality. So going forward to our fifth principle is of Kwanzaa is Nia, which is purpose. And there's an actress whose name is Nia Long. So as an
Hmm.
example of someone who's um, named after that principle. And purpose is the restoration through building and development, which falls in line with the prior principles. Uh,
Hmm.
the sixth principle of Kwanzaa is Kumba, which means creativity, as to elevate, which each generation is basically you're responsible for leaving it better than where you found it. So even if for myself, my responsibility for the offspring that we've produced is to try and put them in a better elevated space than where I was. I mean, so that continues, perpetually. And
Hmm.
the final Kwanzaa principle, is Imani, which means faith, and that's
Hmm.
basically to belief in our own authority figures, being parents, being elders, grandparents, aunts, uncles, teachers, um,
Hmm.
high priests, imams, et cetera, et cetera, and to have a basis of belief and that you will achieve victory in your struggle. And evaluating those principles of Kwanzaa, I thought about. I said, "Wait a minute." I said, "Because there's other principles that we were detached from as Black people that also has parallels or some overlap to it,
Hmm.
and that's from ancient Egypt, also known as ancient Kemet, and
Hmm.
those principles are called the seven principles of Ma'at, and Ma'at is
Hmm.
spelled M-A apostrophe A-T. For those who wish to Google look into further details, but
Hmm.
I'm just I'm not going to give an overall explanation on those principles, but just running them off right quick. Truth, balance, order, harmony, righteousness, morality, and justice. And
Mm.
what I thought about was the principles of my art from which we were disconnected from. You see, um, those are the character dispositions that are prerequisites to achieve the principles set forth in Kwanzaa. Like, for example, you
Mm.
can't have self-determination, in Kwanzaa without balance. You can't have collective work and responsibility in Kwanzaa without the truth of Ma'at. Right? You can't
Mm.
have cooperative, you can't have, I say, you can't have purpose or nia of Kwanzaa without any kind of harmony in my eyes. So they have a bookend kind of relationship, right?
Yeah,
And
Kwanzaa sounds more like it's community oriented and bringing people together who may have part of the disconnection is that people may have been scattered and separated from each other as well
Mhm.
as their heritage. And so Ma'at may be more internal, more personal and spiritual inner work, and then Kwanzaa more connective within your community.
Right. And once you balance that inner work, you're taking that inner work of Ma'at to produce these seven principles within Kwanzaa. And
Mm,
it's interesting. I don't have the scripture offhand, but it's in Genesis, obviously. But
mm,
it describes what the Garden of Eden as a river with a trail of four heads.
mm,
And any geography teacher would know that there's only one river that fits that description, a trail of four heads, and where two of them are the Tigris and Euphrates. I forgot the other two off the top of my head. Hebron, I think,
mm,
is the third one. But there's only one river that fits it. It's not the Danube, it's not the Rhine, it's not the Mississippi, it's not the Rio Grande, it's not the Missouri, it's not the Colorado, it's the Nile. That's the
mm,
only river anywhere on the planet that has four heads. And so when you're thinking of that kind of historical knowledge, that stuff we weren't taught. And I went to Catholic school from K through 12, and
mhm,
they practically either they put the principles of the Bible in your head, or they beat you with it. But somebody forgot to make that connection for me, that the Garden of Eden was actually in Egypt based on the vivid description it gave it in Genesis. And in that garden, which was the Nile River is flowing, that's where
mhm,
those principles of Ma'at come from. And this is
mm.
where the principles of Kwanzaa, where Dr. Maulana Karenga produced 55 years ago, was to come about, and that bridge that historical gap.
It's very smart of him too to use the same practice that Christians did on the pagan holiday, which is where the pagans were already celebrating winter solstice. And so
Hmm.
why not add this birth of Jesus, because we want to convert the people, and um, because some studies have shown that Jesus was actually born in April.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
so the celebration is a metaphorical celebration of the birth. And so then to add another holiday around that time when there's Hanukkah and there's, so many different, as Reverend Mike has talked about in the last few Sunday talks, there's celebrations all over the world that gather at certain times of year. So
Yeah.
to add one for the African American community, the Black American community, to gather together and have their own celebration where they're at the forefront, they're not second thought or left out or sidelined.
Absolutely. And for
There.
those out there, just as a disclaimer,
Mm,
Kwanzaa is not a antidote or an equivalent to Christmas. I just wanted to
right.
make sure that part was clear.
Mm,
We're in the midst of the 12 days of Christmas, which is
mm,
the feast of Saturnalia. And
mm,
it goes from December 25th to January 6th, technically. And
mm,
there are some things within Christmas. There were pagan practices, of course, but like, for instance, there are folks who didn't know that the balls that we put on the Christmas tree were actually from a Germanic origin, where the Germanic tribes took the heads of the people they conquered and hung them on evergreen trees, so, and yeah, it speaks about, alludes to Christmas in the Bible, in the book of Jeremiah, but I won't go into that, but I'm just showing that these are the customs that when Dr. Maulana Karanga introduced Kwanzaa, that he wanted to have something that was detaching, in a sense, from that which was ignoring us anyway, and giving us purpose and identification and dignity, where it needed to appropriately be.
Yeah, that's really cool. So, Reverend Mike, did you have any topics that you wanted to interject here?
That, I'm surprised that we haven't appropriated Kwanzaa into something else, because the practice, what a great way to, because it does straddle the end of the year along with the beginning of a new year. So the practice itself is a very thoughtful and contemplative one. So,
are you planning to appropriate it?
Well,
are you sitting there thinking about?
No, I just have never known much about it. We were talking about this beforehand, so it. If you think about the way that people, humans, I should say, can dismiss things they're not familiar with, right? So we all grew up with, Santa and presents and lights and Christmas trees, and so we don't even think about all of that. And for most people. And then I had a friend of mine who was a school teacher and Jewish, and talked about how annoying it was to have to sing Christmas carols.
Wow,
like, what are you talking about, man? It's Christmas, right? She goes, yeah, I know. I'm Jewish. Yeah, but it's Christmas.
And she's like, yeah, I don't love it. It's not fun for me.
Right. And she goes, I like a Christmas carol, but I have, for 4 weeks, I have to be hit with this separate, something that I don't feel part of.
I see.
I'm not part of it.
Yeah.
And that was a big wake up call to me.
Yeah.
Because I've always considered myself a thoughtful guy, and I wasn't a kid, by the way. Right. I was probably in my 40s.
I see.
And, but that's always stuck with me. Right. And I think I kind of had the same thing about Kwanzaa. Oh, it's just it's a made up holiday. Well, the truth is that they're all made up.
They're all made up. Everything has an origin.
Right.
And,
the reason why they moved the birth of Christ to the 25th is they could not get people to stop observing the Saturnalia.
Yes.
Right. Because it is the Roman Catholic Church. Right. So I mean, it was very clever the way that and many of the Christian saints are assimilated from other cultures. And I don't think we realize how there's still many pagan influences, including the days of the week.
Absolutely.
Right. So Friday is Frida. Wednesday is Woden's Day.
Thor's Day.
Or in German, der Mittwoch.
So there are many things that we think are Christian or even, American or whatever that
Mhm.
are really just adaptations.
Yeah.
So I think the lesson there is for us is to be curious about all of these things, because to me, so for instance, learning all of these things about Christmas and the Christmas holiday in ministry, frankly, not as a lay person, but as a minister, and just just being curious myself, because I have to try and put together a Christmas message once a year for now 11 years that I've been doing it. That's, not only interesting to the congregation, but interesting to myself as well, because nobody wants to come in and just hear the same thing you said last week or last year. At least I don't think they do.
Right.
And so I just kind of feel like I owe it to people that way. But what happens is that we're both served. So I may not know the intricacies of such things, but I can certainly present them. So, I can't know the connection that families have to Kwanzaa, and maybe they don't yet, but in one more generation,
that could happen. Yes.
Right? They may very well. And then within a generation, we may all be, oh, hey, this isn't such a bad thing to get my kids to do.
I mean, granted, we're starting to see these towns that the Hallmark Christmas movies have. We're starting to see that, hey, there's Black people that live there too. So there's some,
especially now, right?
Yeah, I mean, and not only they're not just walking around in the background, they're not just they're sweeping, with the dustpan and whatnot. Now they're having prominent roles now with prominent storyline.
I wanted to talk about,
and in commercials as well, right?
Right.
Well, in commercials now, where you have big merchants like we coming to you, Melena, like Target or Walmart or some of these department stores that are now using R&B, classic R&B cuts that we jammed to 25, 30 years ago. Now they're being reintroduced to a whole new generation of folks. So like there's
they're
folks
the
who probably
oldies now.
yeah, there are folks who probably never even heard of Mary J. Blige, or they probably seen her on some movie or something like that, but they didn't know like which the songs they were that she came out with then in '92. That now they're being introduced in 2020.
Yeah, and I've noticed too with a lot of the ads, they'll put someone of color as the first face that you see, and then they'll mix in lighter skinned people along the way, which I was like, okay, someone is paying attention to that they're not just putting the white people first, and then there's other colors of people too, like an afterthought. They're starting with interesting faces and people that are sometimes mixed heritage, and you can tell in their face that they have really interesting features.
Yes.
So that's really cool.
Yeah, somebody, my wife and I were saying somebody got a talking to over at Hallmark at some point. So where like then you don't see the wing person, Black girl secretary who has a job supporting this executive white woman who's conflicted in what kind of marriage or relationship that she has. Does she take the career in New York, or does she stay in Walla Walla, Washington? That kind of thing. So
sounds like you've been watching a lot of Hallmark Christmas.
Of course. Well, of course.
So I watched Jingle Jangle. Did you watch that one yet?
I did not.
Netflix, okay? It is totally worth, even though it's a few days after Christmas.
Okay.
I loved it. Like, I want to listen to the soundtrack in my car if I ever leave the house again.
Wait a minute.
Pandemic thoughts. Yes. When I drive around, I want to listen to that. It's a musical, but I mean, there's a song, and it's about, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. All the ideas are crashing in my head. It's about an inventor who gets his heart broken because he trusted somebody who, betrayed him. And so he loses his passion and his confidence. And then it's his granddaughter that
and his business.
Yeah, that's right.
Extremely successful businessman. It had such great imagery.
Yes,
that's what I was thinking. If I was a Black parent, I would love my kids to be watching this whole thing. And then I thought, well, I would like to have my kid watching this thing. I mean, it was that kind of a movie, right?
I'm gonna put what's gonna be on our to watch list. I'm sure my wife,
watch it with your family.
If she didn't see it already, then she might be interested.
Here's the thing, Salaam. I don't like musicals.
You don't?
I'm not a musical theater guy. I just, like Oklahoma, it's like, okay, they're out on the range, and now all of a sudden, some guys, that's not me. But this show, the music is really good. And
it's contemporary. It's got hip hop in it. And
I just thought, wow, this is a Christmas classic. I mean,
I hope it becomes one. I would love all little girls at Christmas to sing "The Square Root of Impossible Is Me" is one of the songs. So they're showing girls doing math and being better at math than grandpa inventor, and solving problems, and also being creative, and kind of talking about quantum physics and possibilities, and that the possibility within them. And the little girl, when she sings that song, there's one line that says, "I don't need a hero to save me." And I'm like, oh, go, little girl.
It's empowering. It's
so
empowering.
And so imagine
a lot more out of this movie than I did. I just liked it.
You're not, you don't have an inner little girl who, like, if I saw that as a little girl, I had Wonder Woman, and I had Isis, and I had Electra Woman and Dinah Girl, but I didn't have the square root of impossible is me. Like, I wasn't really encouraged into math and science as much as maybe I wish I had followed it more. So that's one of the things I loved, is the encouragement of the STEM and the STEAM.
Right.
The A is arts.
There you go. And before Melena outed me, is of course of watching the movies. Just a quick explanation for the crowd.
Explanation.
No, but the reason why I think is contextual. But the reason why my wife and I watch those shows and movies regularly is because the family dynamic and the warmth that's there. It reminds us of something that we were missing coming up. And as we grew up and had our romantic story, we kind of took these reunion of broken parts, if you will. That's what algebra means in Arabic, algebra, and meld them together. So that's what that is.
I found myself watching Hallmark series, maybe not the Christmas one so much, because I'm kind of, to be honest, after working at a church for 5 years in the office, another church before I came to CSL.
Whoa, wait a minute, hold on.
I don't love Christmas so much anymore. I'm a little bitter. I need some time off to recoup. But so I can understand, Reverend Mike, when you're talking about
working in the office of a church.
Maybe it was just the way I did it. I'll take responsibility. I maybe tried to do too many things, because I wasn't just working in the office. I was singing, and I was helping coordinate services.
So you were Barbara Cratchit.
Maybe I'm Cratchit.
You were Bob's brother, Bob's sister.
Anywho, I digress. So the other shows that I've started watching.
Can I just say that sometimes a church office is like any other business office?
The busyness, but the busyness ramps up at Christmas. It doesn't go down party mode.
So Dr. Kathy Hearn said, churches where people come to grow up all over each other.
Interesting concept. Interesting concept.
So it's messy.
The office is no different.
Yeah. But then, so after watching Jingle Jangle, it takes place in like Victorian era, and it gives a vision of a community where people of all colors are happily living together and working together, and there's no questions about what color your skin is or what your background is. And I thought, what a beautiful vision to grow up with. And then I watched, there's a new series that came out Christmas Day, I think, on Netflix called Bridgerton. And it's kind of like a Pride and Prejudice. It's Regency era romance. Don't watch this with the kids. It's a little too steamy. But they have done a similar thing where kind of like Harry Potter on stage in London, they cast Hermione as a Black girl. And so it's like, well, why not? Why wouldn't the smartest girl in class be a Black girl?
Be a Black girl, yeah.
So to let people envision that and go, oh yeah, why not? Why question this? So this is the same thing. The Queen of England in Bridgerton is a Black woman. And so there are Black lords and dukes and white and, you know, mixed. And it's such a lovely way to re-envision.
Can I ask you this?
The Age of Enlightenment.
Are there any Irish lords?
Yeah, that's an interesting question.
You just brought up a battle line right there. You know, that's
his mother's English.
Like this.
Okay, I need counseling. Okay, let's move on.
So maybe you and Stephanie should watch Bridgerton and look for Irish lords in there.
No,
maybe they're there.
I need to
drama.
That would be conciliatory if you have Irish lords in that type of environment for that region.
Could be.
I need to heal that resentment, not feel.
There you go.
But I just I love all of these new storytelling ideals of showing the world that we want to live in and letting people step into that world in their imagination so that we bring it about in our real lives. It's really the principles of religious science. What we think about, we bring about. And
that is true.
Yeah. So I've just been excited seeing all of these things. And I haven't seen Soul yet. That's the one thing still on my list, which is a Disney Plus and Pixar classic about a musician. So I have to watch that. But it is the first Pixar main character that is a Black American character. So these are cool things.
They got the message.
Yeah.
Now we just have to move it from
fiction,
entertainment, and fiction into reality.
That what you just said about like I'm sorry, Rev.
That's right.
Melena, about imagine a society where no one's not questioning or having to qualify your existence. You're just included. It reminded me of a song, and when they advertised it, they advertised the PS5, and they were playing the song on there. It's actually called "Run the Jewels," and it's by the Killer Mike and was it Greg Nice from the hip hop group Nice and Smooth. Yeah, so your friend who was just on as a guest, I forgot his name. Hopefully he forgets watching. Yeah, he knows what I'm talking about. Sorry about that, Scott. I'm usually good with that, but I know he would appreciate the link I just sent you. And if you watch the video, of course, there's Killer Mike keep it raw, with the custom. But it has my favorite hip hop DJ ever, DJ Premier. We call him Primo. Yeah, he's a half of the duo of the hip hop group Gangstar, which was formerly the late Keith Elam. He was known as Guru, and Guru is the acronym for Gifted Unlimited Rhymes and Universal. And but DJ Premier was he just totally tore it up. He ripped it, but I love the melody. It's actually a sample of a song that they did. That Greg Nice and with Nice and Smooth did with Gangstar back in '92, and it's called "Do What You Can, Kid," and the acronym is DWYCK, basically. So a little bit of hip hop stuff for the audience out there
There
too.
you
But
go.
when you were telling me when you're describing the atmosphere and the harmony that was there, Melena, it reminded me of that. But just watch the video, watch how everything moves, and it's gonna fall right in line with what you just described. I sent it to you as well, Reverend Mike.
Cool.
See if you feel it when you watch the opening of Jingle Jangle.
Absolutely.
I do have a question.
Sure.
So PS5.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was, oh, it is PlayStation.
PlayStation, yes.
Okay, good. So I am keeping up.
You're good.
Okay, good.
Yeah, but they did a commercials for actually it was for NBA 2K as the one where they had LeBron and like the Legend Edition of Kobe, commemorating him passing, But the soundtrack to that commercial was the song that I just sent.
So
watch the video.
Can we digress for just a second?
Sure.
Digress from our digressions?
So, are either one of you guys gamers?
I wish I could be. I used to be, but I had to say no.
You still have time.
I just don't have the time. But I wish that ironically, I missed the Nintendo Sega Genesis days. To me, those were the best.
Right.
The first generation PlayStation was cool. First, second generation, third. But now like Xbox and all that stuff, it just took it to a whole nother level.
Right.
I mean, like I'll go back in the back.
Are you a Zelda guy or
Legend of Zelda? Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I had both.
Well, those are very mental immersion. The virtual reality is in your head, right?
Absolutely,
right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I was just curious if you and your kids got into some Madden 5 or anything like that, and who wins.
Yeah, they're playing Madden and NBA 2K and it's Call of Duty. I mean, now like they don't have like the games where it's just where like okay, you're battling the bad guys, but now there's whole plots and schemes behind the game. Now, like in order to play Grand Theft Auto, you gotta like have a prostitution ring. You gotta have like a drug cartel. It's gotten like really like real life stuff. So.
Wow.
So, you guys know that there's one more digression. So
go deeper. Melanie said we go deep, right?
That new, newish mall over off of Topanga, where REI is. It's kind of sort of outdoors and all
Victory, thereabouts.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Okay.
It used to be Topanga Plaza, or
yes.
Yeah, but that's gone now.
So and they put Neiman Marcus and Crate and Barrel and all that stuff over there.
Right. So they have, and I haven't been over there because I don't know what businesses are still open over there, but they actually have this place that's a virtual reality set, and it's kind of expensive. It's like, so you go in with like 6 friends, and it's like $35 or $40 a piece. And I think it's 30 minutes or an hour.
Okay.
But they have like this whole Star Trek thing, and you put on the it's like high-end virtual reality stuff. And so you do all these things together, including, shooting with, phasers and all that other stuff.
Oh, wow.
I'm just bringing that up to just kind of underscore that that the pace of change seems to be moving exponentially. And what I'm hoping is that reflects itself, because we're going to be kind of winding up here in a little bit, but I hope it reflects itself in these next few years, because I don't think we've actually spoke since the election. And I'm just wondering if if to just speak, if you, Salaam and Melena, if you guys have any sense of, or even a vision of where you personally are heading, post-COVID.
You mean
And
personally or in another way?
personally, and then if you have a sense of dread or excitement about the possibilities with the new administration and maybe some new energy and keeping the energy. So all this energy, we've spoken about this on this show from the start, right? So the energy of the Black Lives Matter movement and how to keep that inertia going so that we actually affect policy changes, let's say starting with police brutality, say. But
I must say, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's good. I just set it up. Take it away.
I must say, I'm gonna be transparent and honest that I'm still concerned because I look at a number line. In math, how you have 0, you have 10, and the midpoint is 5. And so we know what left is, we know what right is, and we know what center is. But the problem is we've gotten so tolerable to where left becomes instead of 0, we now put left at 5, and now we have our midpoint at 7.5 and 10, and so everything is like kind of is shifting to the right. And what scares me, and for myself and for my family, is that I think that what we've done, and mainly because we were backed into a corner electorally, and we had no recourse, we had to get rid of the slay the dragon, so to speak. But I'm afraid that if we're not careful, when we see how this thing in Georgia is still going, and you still see how little subtle slips of this little bill getting passed and this one getting kicked back and vetoed, that kind of thing, that I'm afraid that we're going to settle into a more comfortable and tolerable oppression, because of we've seen the worst, that we've trying to get the hell out of here by January 20th, but we've seen it so bad to where, okay, if we put you here, then you'll find that acceptable, even though that's still within a
Right.
range of bad. You know what I mean? So like we still haven't really like got swung at a whole pendulum on that tug of war where you kind of bring the opponent across the middle.
Right.
We still haven't brought it across the middle. What we instead have done is move where our starting point, our line of where we're trying to pull to, we move that line closer towards the middle, and we're on that side potentially.
Right.
That's my concern. Yeah, and it's
That
just
the center is actually a moderate conservative position.
absolutely,
Right.
absolutely, as not as friendly to working people and to the masses as they sell us the idea of being.
And that's, of course, that's been going on for a couple decades now.
Mhm.
But no, to your point. So how awake are we? Right. So really, it's not enough to be woke. We have to be awake.
Yeah.
We have to be awake, aware, and alert. But also, to have a vision of the way we'd like to see, our world, starting from, I guess, even just keeping it local, right? So I want my kids' school to be this way. I want my city council to do X. I want, that kind of thing. So I went, because I got asked if I would consider running for the chamber here in Granada Hills.
Sure. Why not?
Right. But here's the thing, it's kind of funny because I know I'm the only lefty on the business improvement district.
I'm not surprised.
But and I'm totally okay with it, because the truth is that I believe in small business, and I believe in capitalism to for innovation and to affect change and to lift people up out of poverty.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not down with the blank check.
Right.
And so I think it's kind of fun to be in these spaces, and I'm hoping other people will find, because what are you going to do on a chamber in Granada Hills? But I don't know, but you're going to do something,
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And there'll be at least one voice squeaking. No, wait, because I remember I was on one thing about we were talking about the homeless issue, and I said, "Hey, man, we're one of the more affluent neighborhoods in the valley.
Mm-hmm.
We should be taking our share. These guys are harmless. If you just take the time, yeah, they're a nuisance. I don't know why they're hoarding all their trash.
Right.
I don't understand all of that, but they're pretty harmless.
Yes.
And they're here.
Mm-hmm.
And they're part of our community. So we can either be friendly with them, but we don't have to be afraid of them.
Mm-hmm.
That, yeah. So, well, they're urinating and they're doing the, okay, well, maybe we should have a Andy Gump.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't we do that?
Yeah.
Right?
That would be.
It's going to take some nudging, because people don't want to, well, I don't want an Andy. Then you're back to the NIMBY thing.
Yeah.
Right.
But what I'm getting at is I just, all of us need to find ways to just keep moving the ball forward.
Mm-hmm.
And like you're saying, Salaam, it's not enough, if we're only moving to stay with a sports metaphor, if we're only moving the ball, 2 yards at a time, we're not going to, we're going to be punting,
3 and out every time. Yeah.
Right. And what we need is, 3.5 a carry.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And then once in a while get the long ball, right? And all of that is just going to be people like, Salaam. I think Salaam would make an excellent city council person. Or
Thank you.
I'm serious.
Thank you.
I mean, I know I've kind of ribbed you.
Let's write it in.
Let's do it.
But
All right.
or just find wherever we can find our little niche to just, like you say, move the ball forward. So
yeah,
and our leaders are going to emerge out of this, and then because it's not really, I'm getting to be an old guy now, so I got to find and identify young guys,
Sure.
young talented guys and gals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There you go.
So anyway.
Yeah, I kind of feel like I don't know what the world is going to look like as we emerge from, where LA is now as the epicenter of the pandemic. And, we have a lot of work to do before we can emerge from our homes and interact like we may be used to. But I think supporting Black-owned businesses is one way we can keep the Black Lives Matter movement going and making a difference, is supporting small businesses and entrepreneurs and people who are getting creative online and doing sales that way. We have to be creative about every little thing.
We just have to keep it up in everyone's face.
Yeah, we do. And to Melena's point about what the pandemic is doing, it's really frayed at how it changes how we interact with people forever, I would think. Because what it's doing is they tell us, that it's good to like experience the human touch. Remember how you hear the soft words of the human touch, the connection, with the human family. But to stay alive, folks have to isolate. Folks
Mhm.
have to like not have contact with elders, and the elders is this is how they're getting by, seeing their grandkids,
Yeah.
seeing their little kids that come by to check on them and stuff like that. But
Mm.
all those kind of relationships have just like been distance. It's been like broken apart. So and
Yeah.
how do you
Well,
make
yeah,
that reunion
but
of broken parts?
they've
So
been strained, but I do think they are going to come back together, and I think there's going to be so much pent up demand. I really do. I think there's going to be so much pent up demand that we're going to have a little love fest for,
yeah,
once we get the all clear.
it's gonna be a boom.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a boom.
So,
Maybe.
Mhm.
um, but I don't. Well, anyway, I am hopeful for and I'm usually pretty pessimistic about such things because
Mhm.
uh, you know humans, I mean, we're still cooking the planet,
Yeah.
right? There are things going on, but
Mhm.
I think that this pause has given us an opportunity to revision, to revise and revision our own gigs. And
Mhm.
that, to your point, Salaam, that human contact is important.
Mm-hmm.
you know we
Yeah.
got to have that. We have to have community. So it may be a hybrid, and I think for those of us who are uh, wired for having, with some awareness of the divine, that spiritual community,
Mm-hmm.
uh, that people are going to be longing for that, and to explore and to bring this depth that they've been cultivating,
Yeah.
Mhm.
right? So my thing for 2021 is let's get her done in 2021.
No, absolutely. But
All
that's
right.
what we're
Solve
into
all
it.
the world's problems.
Yeah, well, hey, I tell you, after the last several years, if we just get over the threshold and keep the momentum going,
Mhm.
I think things, and then just we got to keep the pedal to the metal,
Yes.
you know. So
Absolutely.
anyway,
Yep, we've
not that
done
you
an
asked
hour.
me what I cared about such things.
Of course we want to know.
I'll start
So,
thinking heavily about city council.
all right. Well,
Or
I know
neighborhood council even.
yeah, neighborhood council I
Sure.
know is a good place to start and get a feel for all what the city services are. And I know
Mm-hmm.
from my local neighborhood council, which my dad was really involved in for a while, you can move up to city council from there. So
Okay.
a guy in my neighborhood was on the neighborhood council and then he ran for city council. So I've seen it happen.
Got it.
There
That's the
we
pathway.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is our farewell
And
show for 2020.
you've already got your IT manager right here.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
There you go. Yeah. And so best wishes our viewers and both of you for a peaceful and just meaningful celebration as we cross into the new year. And here's to getting her done and having fun in 2021.
Yeah,
Ooh, I like
2020, get the hell out. Your time is up.
Yeah. And if you're invited to join me on Zoom at 4 a.m. tomorrow morning
Everybody's wearing their special favorite pajamas.
for the peace meditation. Yeah.
Gonna watch each other nod
Right.
in meditative prayer.
Yeah, everyone will have their screen off and all will hear it.
Snores. Hopefully not.
No.
Yeah, that'll be cool. That's always a nice way to bring in a new year, is in meditation that has been timed so people all over the world are praying
They're doing the
and
same thing.
meditating at the
Yeah.
same time.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
we can put all sorts of positive thoughts and plant seeds for the planet during that time. And just look forward to co-creating a world that works for all.
Mm-hmm.
Amen.
It is our
Absolutely.
work. All right. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Love to you both.
Love you too. Take
And,
care.
thanks for this. This has been fun this year.
Yes. Okay, here we go. Ending broadcast.